started. First off, I'm recording this session. So for those of you who've had some colleagues or some friends who weren't able to make it or can't make the later one this afternoon, we'll post this to our website. So you'll be able to see this class, once we get it posted. Also, too, I'll be monitoring the questions. So throughout this presentation, if there's any questions, please go ahead and type them in the question and answer box, and I'll do my best to answer them through that. Or if we need to, I'll break in and have Jai speak to those questions themselves. And then we'll leave some time at the end for some question and answers as well. So I'm going to let Jai introduce himself and kind of run through that. So Jai, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you for spending the morning with us here. So we're going to get into the subject of the nighttime demonstration. And this is one of the key core things that we do over here at Unique. It's part of our best way of illustrating what lighting looks like, as well as training contractors and designers. So to introduce myself, I'm the business development manager for the East Coast. My name is Jai Musselman, and my entire life has been spent in the green industry. So for the past 28 years, I've been doing low voltage lighting. First system was in 1992. And yes, we did actually have electricity back then. It wasn't just kerosene lanterns. But the past 14 years have been spent here with Unique Lighting Systems. So core of my responsibilities is calling on landscape architects, contractors, HOAs, management companies, and really trying to highlight how the best to use the Unique lighting products for their projects. A question that often gets answered or asked rather is, what is the most effective way to sell lighting? Well, hopefully you don't do like I did. My very first lighting system in 92, I handed the homeowner a catalog. And by doing that, basically it took a lot of time because the homeowner didn't know any more about lighting than I did. But what happened is I actually shifted the power of the relationship into the homeowner's hands. And now I was just a mere person that was going to put it in. So I should have really been the professional in that particular situation. And I was not. So it wasn't an effective way of selling lighting. That first lighting system ended up being 2 up lights and about 5 path lights. So definitely had room to grow there. Now, we might look at the next way that people are going about bidding lighting is maybe they're putting together a proposal and maybe their viewpoint is only from a price situation. Maybe they're going to be the low bid to get that project, or maybe they're going to try to go ahead and just give them a whole bunch of verbiage of how many fixtures and all the costs. See, this type of method right here might come to a price tag at the very end that might be a little scary. Well, you say, Jai, maybe we're going to give them a nice, beautiful plan as well. But to kind of look at this plan here from a homeowner or a property owner standpoint, this plan is very hard to understand. It means something to a designer, it means something to a contractor, but all these different symbols here, the homeowner or property owner have no clue what each one of these particular fixtures are going to do for their project. So this might be a little overwhelming to show them a complete plan without really having a way to illustrate what this is going to look like. So we're going to stop for a moment and kind of think about some of the other high dollar items that we buy in our lives. It may be televisions, stereos, cars, and we're going to analyze the sales process as well as how we educate ourselves. So this is not me here, but the true story is this past year for the Super Bowl, I wanted to buy a new TV, and I had a certain size TV in the house and I wanted to upgrade that. And I saw the sales flyer come out and I kind of looked at it and go, wow, that's 65 inches. I'm going to go look at this television. And it was a dollar amount that I had already then accepted. But as I got to the store with my wife in tow, we started looking at the different TVs. The one that was in the sales flyer was adequate. It did the job perfectly. But all of a sudden, my eyes shifted to the right a little bit. And then there was another model TV that didn't have quite the deep discount, but it looked better. So I sat there and studied a little bit more, and basically I punted. I went ahead and told my wife, we need to go back home. I need to do a little bit of research, figure out what are all the differences. And a few days later, we returned to the store. Well, I did it again. I let my eyes shift to another television that was even a little bit higher quality. And what I noticed is that the color was better, the action on the TV was faster, and it had a higher level of anti-glare on the screen. So you guess it, I didn't buy a TV that day either. I went back home, told my wife I needed to do all the studies, find out, why it's so good or, is it justifiable? Well, the third time I went to the store, my wife refused to come with me because she knew that I was getting a paralysis by analysis there. But what the thing was is I was able to start educating myself and start justifying a price because I became more confident in the decision-making process. Well, I got to tell you, it was no better when I switched to the surround sound. My wife really didn't want no part of that either, but I spent a lot of time figuring out which surround system was best for my needs. And we do the same thing when we go to look at cars. We see the sales flyers, we see them on television ads. We might even drive by the lot, or maybe somebody's just purchased one in the neighborhood. And we look at it and we go, wow, that car is beautiful. The color's perfect, the rims are perfect, the way it sets. But, we're not just going to make a knee-jerk reaction and buy this type of purchase, right? We want to look, we want to hear, and we want to drive. It won't always come down to just the price tag, but sometimes it's a lot of the other little factors that go into it. Maybe it's the mileage, it's the performance. But at the very end of the day, we want to take it for the test drive. We want to see if it really lives up to the expectations so that we can justify the price. We might be in the situation where we need a new car, but do we need, but we want this car. So we have to justify that. Well, at Unique, we basically think that the sales approach to a lighting system is very, very similar. That, we want to have the homeowner be able to take it for the test drive. And we also want to combine that with a few more steps because just the test drive isn't enough. We have to then educate them as well. And one of the key ways that we do that is by introducing our demo kit. And our demo kit here, you can see on the sales flyer here, kind of gives you all the descriptions. We have 18 lights that are already pre-lamped with these 4-watt 2700 Kelvin lamps. We'll have the 150 watt transformer, and inside this transformer, you have a 12 through 15 volt tap so that we're able to adjust the tap depending upon the amount of energy we need to get down the end of the run of wire. For the quick install, we're able to put all these lights together with the hubs that have the quick connects as well as the fixtures. We also have a 10-foot, a 25-foot, and 50-foot lead of wire. So 3 rolls of wire there for you with quick connects on both ends. So the good thing about this demo kit though is that it has the ability to upgrade when you're ready. So let's get a little closer look at a fixture here. We utilize the nucleus fixture here, and it'll have a 15-foot lead of wire, and the quick connects will be on this end here. It'll have a stake, and then it'll have a 1-foot flex auxiliary lead. This is in case you have a hub maybe with 3 or 4 fixtures on it, and then you need to go out a little bit further. You can just simply attach another fixture or 2 to this flex lead and just daisy chain it outward. So now that we've seen what a demo kit looks like and the components, let's figure out a good process on how to get started. Perhaps we've already talked to the homeowner just to make sure that they have an interest in lighting. But now we want to take it a little bit further. We want to make sure that the decision makers are home. So if it's a husband and wife, we want to make sure that they both have a chance to enjoy the demo, especially on setup night, so that we can be audible, ready to answer any questions. If it happens to be a situation where we have an HOA and they're wanting to do an entryway, but we need to have all the people that are the board members on the HOA present, or at least the key decision makers. We have to ask very important questions on how they use their property. Do you spend a lot of time in the backyard? Do you grill out? Do you have a pool? And then once we get to that level, we'll ask them, how would you like to use your property? Do you have anything important that means something to you? Perhaps it's a statue. It might be a tree that was planted for a certain reason. And we want to be able to light those things and put them in part of our lighting design, even from the demo standpoint. Another question I might ask them is, does anybody else have lighting in the neighborhood that you like? That kind of gives me a direction and a target. And they might say, well, Mrs. Jones across the street has lighting and we like the way that looks. So that gives me a chance to kind of spy on it. And I want to make sure that when I lay this demo out that I'm hitting all the notes that I need to, as well as make my demo look as good as an install any day of the week. The following question I'll ask is when I'm scheduling, when does your lawn get maintained? Because I want to make sure that the grass is perfectly cut, the bushes are trimmed, and the site is blown off. That way I can leave it out for multiple days, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So now that our questions are already asked of the homeowner, we're going to take a look at the house here, and we're going to point out a few things about this house. This house here has a second story that is as wide as the whole house. Another key factor in the design is the front doorway is actually power shifted over here to the left. So I want to visually direct people easily to the doorway at night. Now, if we look over on our picture on the right, we can see that we're going to put lights over here on the top, and that's going to cover our second story. And then the one thing that kind of seems to hide a little bit in the daytime is this column right here. So it just kind of blends in. So we have some tricks that we're going to do to kind of make that column a little bit more accentuated at night. And you can see all the other little dots there kind of show where we're going to do some future fixture placements. And we notice that this garage here, these side pillars are a little bit wider. So maybe we're going to use two lights, one off the corner and one off the inside corner so we can kind of wrap into the doorway and also get two sides for one. Also, by doing that, we'll go ahead and make the shadow a little bit more evened out from the sconces. So here we are, we're going to unpack our demo kit, the 150 SS LED. We have these 18 fixtures that we talked about already. We have our group of hubs, our 3 lengths of wire, and our transformer. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I got to go find power. So I need to also make sure that once I've found this outlet, is it on? Is it working? So if I have a voltmeter handy, I can simply test it like that. Uh, Chances are maybe I don't have a voltmeter on me. So at that point, I'll plug the transformer into the wall. I'll just plug one of the fixtures into one of these leads right here, and I'll flip this switch up. If I don't see the light come on, now I'm going to look to see, is there a GFI tripped on this outlet or any of the surrounding outlets? If I don't find that to be the case, then I'm going to knock on the door and I'm going to ask the homeowner if this outlet is controlled by a switch inside the house. They may tell me yes, and at that point, I'll say, for the duration of the demo, can we leave that switch on the on position? So now we have our power situated. We can feel comfortable to place this transformer here. Our next step is we're going to go ahead and start laying out our fixtures. So in this scenario here, I really want to draw people to this entryway. So I'm going to put a fixture on each side of the entryway. And then that one column we talked about over here in the daytime that seemed like it just didn't really draw a lot of attention, we're going to make it a lot more dramatic at night. On the garage, because these pillars were a little bit wider and we had all the beautiful stonework, we're going to place one fixture toward the inside portion as well as the outside portion. And that way, again, we get two sides for one light. And we're also going to be able to balance that shadow that's going to be from the wall sconce above it. Now here's where the hubs come in play. Once we start getting some of these guys laid out, all these fixtures, we're going to quickly be able to put these in with the quick connects. So they just really snap right together. You can see we got a couple fixtures there put in, and we got a wire that's going to go over here and daisy chain over to here, but we're going to put the mat over top there just to make sure that the wire's protected and covered and it's not a trip hazard. Now we're going to move to the second story. Now in this scenario here, we used a few spring clamps just to balance the fixture. And we're really trying to get this fixture to sweep at about a 45-degree angle. And also there'll be another fixture over at the other end sweeping back. Now we notice that this is the 15-foot lead from another fixture coming over here. And then here's the flex auxiliary lead. And these are our quick connects. We're simply going to plug these quick connects in by lining up the color. And I like how they snap together. It's a lot like a Lego. So you know if you have a good connection or not. And it does have the ability to stay together very well, even through the duration of a demo. Now again, if we would have had a gutter on the front of this house, we would have probably set these same fixtures in the gutter and used the same spring clamps. We've got our demo all set up in the daytime now, so one of the last checklists that we need to do is tuck all of our wires in, but then we need to put on a timing device. So it can be a simple analog timer, not my particular favorite because if I'm trying to illustrate turning lights on and off just to make that dramatic reveal, I got to be careful to really line that time back up appropriately. Plus, it's not going to be really accurate like if it was going off a daylight savings time or anything like that. We have the ability to also put in an astro timer, and you can see we can come up here and bump it on and off very easily. But my favorite is really to use the LPCUA, and I can pre-program this with an L Pro or even at my house with an L Plus. I can take this guy out, and it'll have a 7-year backup battery to hold the programming. So once it has my zip code, it does fine throughout the duration of my territory. The other good factor is if I do have a remote, I can do the grand reveal, or I can just simply push this button in the middle to kind of turn the lights on and off. So now that it's getting nighttime, I still want to go through this job site before I invite the homeowner out. I'm going to do all my final adjustments. I'm going to balance out this top light, make sure it all blends perfectly. I'm going to sit here and see if all the intensities are the same. Columns lit, doorways give me visual direction. Everything's done. So now I'm going to invite the homeowner out. And as I invite the homeowner out, they're usually blown away. They can't believe that their property looks the way that it does at night. They've never seen it like this before. So I might take some photos now, and I'll recommend taking photos of just the property by itself. And sometimes I like to even have the homeowner, their shadow or silhouette in the picture. And I'll build my portfolio on that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about portfolios in another spot. But the good thing about taking pictures is it allows me to email the picture as a reminder. So again, professional lighting has a cost to it, and sometimes that cost is maybe not quite expected. Maybe the homeowner has just been doing a kitchen work and renovation, and they've had a budget for that. So what this allows me to do by having a picture is in a couple weeks, I can follow up, send a picture of the demo, remind them of how good it looked, ask if there's any further dialogue needed. Perhaps that email comes in a couple months, and then I'll take that one last stab at a year later. So now we're going to let this demo with them. And I call that, it's kind of like leaving them a puppy, you know. Once they have this puppy, they're not going to give it back. It's a beautiful, cuddly little puppy that the whole family is going to fall in love with and they're going to get used to. Now, we recommend to leave the demo up for several days. At times, we can set it up and break it down in the same day, but it's really good to have a practice of leaving it, particularly on a Friday through the weekend, or set it up on a Thursday. Because what's going to happen is the first night we're going to introduce the client to the demo. We're going to explain very simply some of the different techniques so that they get it. But really, we're going to let the homeowner then marinate for the weekend. And the good thing about this is this demo kit's going to work every night for the homeowner as well as all the surrounding neighbors. Well, you guessed it. We're going to use the same demo kit after we break it down, and we're just going to move it right to another project. So we're going to do the same steps. We're going to find out what the homeowner likes about their property. And they love this French Quarter New Orleans type of look. So they like the dormers. They love their columns. They like their big plant material as well as their trees, both the oak and the magnolia. So once we find out all their hot buttons, we're now going to do the same thing we did before and consider a design. So we're going to light the oaks by putting a light on each side, light the magnolia the same way, the other big plant material at the front. But remember, the homeowner wanted a dormer and also loved their columns. Those were the things they loved about this house. And at night, our demo hit the spot. So some of the key reasons of lighting this right here this way, striping the tree, is that it gives a little bit of a silhouette here. Same thing for the magnolia over here. And it doesn't take away from what's important, which is the architecture. Now we can see that that 4-watt lamp has no problem going all the way up on a darker brick house 2 stories. And even a little bit of light starting to bleed over on this other dormer up top. We also notice that we control the eye at where we want the eye to stop over here on the left-hand side of the property. So by front lighting that, it's basically telling our eye to stop. There's nothing to see beyond it. The homeowner now has gotten the education needed for them to understand what their house should look like. So in case that they were going to do any shopping on the project, they're going to probably ask the next person to lay a demo out as well to make sure that they're on the right design trail. And that's a competitive advantage for us as a contractor or designer. The demo's done. We've let it sit through the weekend. What's our call to action? What are we going to do next? Well, as we break the demo down, it's time to rip off the Band-Aid, I like to say. So we have got to give a price. We got to have a proposal ready. We've had enough time. And for the project, we might want to break it up into scenes. So if it's a little bit more of an encompassing project where we have a front yard, a backyard, maybe they live on a lake and they have a boat dock, or maybe the property is big enough that they have a front entry. So when we break it up into these scenes, we allow the homeowner to have the ability to prioritize that job as needed. We don't want to overwhelm them. I'm going to recommend that we start discussing budget as soon as possible, even from the beginning. The reason we do that is because it's going to validate the cost of our system that is professionally installed. And also, the biggest reason that we're going to do that is because the homeowner may already have some different price expectations. Perhaps they've gotten a flyer in the mail from a contractor that does 10 light systems for $1,200. Perhaps they've been on the internet. And I think all of us have been in the box store and seen that they have a low voltage lighting section. So they may have already kind of had a certain idea of what price would be, much like I did when I was looking at that first television. I saw the flyer, and in my mind, I already had that in my head, and I was justifying only that price. So the portfolio portion of it is that we should have been taking photos not only of our completed jobs, but also our demos. And what this allows us to do is say that, okay, I see this house here and I've done this one in this neighborhood several times and it's going to take 12 to 15 lights. And in my Odyssey line, my upper line, that price tag might come in around 3,000. If it's going to go down a step into our medium line, it might go down to 2,800, 25 to 2,800, but it kind of gives us an idea of where to go at with the homeowner. If we have the next section, it would be more like 25 to 30 light jobs, and it ranges in from five to $7,000. We can give the homeowner a little bit of an idea. If they were to stop us and say, "Hey, I would never spend that amount of money on that. I would never spend 7,000." Well, now we kind of know where we stand at a little bit. So we could still keep the dialogue going and ask, what did you have an idea of what you were comfortable spending? Well, I thought 5,000 would be the top of my limit. Well, that's an acceptable amount, and now we can start designing toward that 5,000. If we're still going to lay the demo out, I would still lay a few extra fixtures out and have them on those quick connects to show them what they're saying yes to and what they're saying no to. So a demo kit is a contractor's best friend because having a demo kit is going to turn you into a designer. And then once you're a designer, the demo kit is still the designer's best friend. It allows us to learn how light reacts with surfaces. We're going to start learning about slight movement, angle. Do we need to be in closer because of the stonework to pick up all the texture? Do we need to be further out to really pick up the whole expanse? See, it's going to turn us into a designer, and the homeowner is going to sit there and watch that we're taking our time setting things up and doing that final bit of practice. It's going to sit there and install into that homeowner that you're a designer, and it's going to justify the scope of the project. So back to this project here, we realized that that second story was the length of the house, so we really want to make sure we covered that. We realized that the entry was power shifted to the left and that we wanted to make the column stand out a little bit more. And I think we achieved our goals quite well here at night. There was no question again where the front door was. And by the placement of the light being on the front of this column and the lights on each side of the front door, it allowed the light to fade off softly behind the column, which then allowed that column to have separation. But as we get right here, we can still have a conversation with the homeowner and say, wow, I wish I would have put one more light right there. And then that way we could have gotten rid of this little dark shadowed area. See, what we're going to do there is allow the homeowner to start becoming into the buying process and also part of the suggestion process. Because once we mention that, they're going to focus on this dark spot when everything else is so evenly lit. And now it's going to add another light to this project. So the demo kit that we have already shown you is our entry-level demo kit, but we can expand this. So we might be able to add more path lights. I would make a recommendation of like a Lancer 6 with a 24-inch stem, probably 3 to 5 of those. And we'll put the quick connects on from the factory. The reason the 24-inch stem is because I might want to move it back into the plant material a little bit more. And because it's a little taller, the light's going to spread a little further, so I won't need as many path lights. I do like well lights on demos when necessary, because if I'm showing somebody that I need to put a light into a concreted area or paver area, it'll sit nice and flat on those surfaces, makes it easy. Or perhaps I have a very large tree that I'm trying to show a very wide canopy. That par 36 lamp will achieve that very well. And then I have a couple downlights in my demo kit. I like the hanging comet, because what it allows me to do is put a spring clamp on the gutter. I wrap the cord around it. I can let it hang straight down, and it'll give that good semblance of what light looks like. But one of the easiest things to do to our demo kits is pick up a few more lamps, perhaps different beam spreads, different outputs, and Kelvin temperatures. And then also we can always save our lenses from past jobs. So on a lot of the demos that I do when I'm washing the architecture, I'm using a frosted lens. And again, we could also use our vivid lamp. And once we set this up, we can ask to have the homeowner's phone or have them download the app, give them our password, and then they can have the ability to control these lamps throughout the weekend. The CCT lamp also can come in handy, because sometimes we don't know what is the best Kelvin temperature for a project. So over here on the right, we see that I tuned the bottom to 2700 Kelvin, and it shifted that blue and that white trim considerably. The blue became almost a muddy purple. The white trim became very yellowish. And then when we come over here to the tree, we notice that it's got a little bit of brown based into it, because that warm light is affecting the tree. But as we look at the picture on the left, everything is tuned to 5000 Kelvin on the architecture, and we can see how all of that pops now. The white trim is super white, the sign is really good over here, the blue is real well, and then that tree again has now went to a nice green there. It kind of hit all the brown hues in the leaves there. The only thing that's still 2700 Kelvin is these path lights down here. So we can still make a decision to change the Kelvin temperature on those lamps in the future. Demo kits allow us to get past objections that a homeowner might have. So I like to say is show them what they're missing. So on this property here, we're going to add 3 more lights on the top, and then 2 more by the front door and 1 more path light. So a big change by adding another 6 lights. Another project. Here we've got the 4 lights right here, and then we're going to add some for downlighting over the doors as well as these benches, and we're going to do the second story. So we're going to add another 8 lights on this project. And we notice real quickly that even the front door now comes to life a lot more. You know, this is a nice red door. We didn't see that before. And they also have a nice wreath hanging on it. Again, the quick connects allow us to wire them all together and just simply unplug it and plug it back together to show that level of dramatic intensity. The last project here that we have that shows a second story, we got 3 dormers up top, and then we have 2 surrounding trees. Another huge reveal by adding another 5 lights. So the demo kit here is educating the homeowner of what their second story looks like. It'll be very difficult for them to not want this now. Now sometimes we hear that, you know what, Jai? We already have lights. So they got these beautiful lights that are in the daytime, but at nighttime, they're just full of a lot of glare. Now on this project, we were instructed, we just want landscape lighting. We've already got all of our architectural lighting. Well, we asked permission and were granted. We were able to then set up a real demo and show them the difference. So if you notice here, we don't even have the regular lights on any longer. We've turned them off so that we can see all the architecture. Now, this leads us to being able to have another conversation with them. Maybe we're going to take all these lights in here now and put it into a flickering candelabra type lamp so that it has more of a gas lantern look. Or if that's not going to happen, maybe we're going to choose a warmer Kelvin temperature on this particular color because it's a nice warm color property. Use a warm Kelvin temperature lamp and then put it on a dimmer switch on the inside. That way we can use this for task lighting when we need to, but then pull it down to the appropriate levels when we don't need them on. So the great thing about a demo is that long after you're gone, you set it up on a Thursday, it's still talking for you basically on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. And not only is the homeowner or property owner going to notice, but all the neighbors around are noticing as well. So it's really leading to our credibility as being the lighting designer. So in review, we're going to go over the steps of setting up an effective demo. Question 1, we want to make sure how they use their property and how they intend to use their property. The second question is, what is important to them? If they have, again, something that's very special to them, we want to take that into consideration with our lighting design. Again, we want to make sure that setting up a demo when the decision makers are present. So if it's a homeowner, the husband and wife are going to work together on making that decision. So we want to be able to answer any questions when they're both there. If it's an HOA, again, we want to make sure that board members are there. Always take photos for the follow-up as well. Also, be ready to talk budget as soon as possible, followed with a proposal. So a quick story on this one right here is that we'd set up a demo one time in North Georgia, and when we got done, the homeowners loved it. The design came out to be a little bit north of 120 lights, and we didn't hear anything. So as the distributor's rep came around again to the same property with the same contractor, they saw the same homeowner, and the distributor rep asked, "Hey, Mr. Cox, you haven't done the lighting. Just checking in to see where you're at with that decision. What's hanging you up on this?" And Mr. Cox said, "Well, I didn't get a price." Well, right there, that's a mistake. When we don't give a price for the work that we've already done, there's no way they're just going to hand you a suitcase of money and tell you to get it done. So our distributor rep looked over at the contractor, talked to him for a moment, and said, "Hey, would you like me to sell this for you?" Contractor approved. So he went back to Mr. Cox and said, "Okay, based on this amount of lights, this is the budget range I think we're going to fall into." The funny thing about the story is that homeowner already has a very nice lighting system at their primary residence down in Atlanta and just shook his head. He goes, "That's about what I thought it would cost." So then the project was green lighted. So the problem was there was no proposal and the contractor never asked for the sell. So we have got to combine our demo with the follow-up. And then lastly, contact your local unique rep. We all have our own demo kits and are glad to help set them up on your behalf. So again, we still want to go through all those processes about making sure when the decision makers are home, ask the questions, we'll help you set the demo up. And as we sell it, we hope that you're going to reinvest in your company and then have your own demo kit because we cover very large areas and we want to be able to have demos done at your convenience. So to find our local unique rep, you can go to our website and go into customer support and you'll find a map with all of our territories overlapped on it. My name is Jai Musselman, and if you want to get a hold of me personally, it's jai.musselman@uniquelighting.com. My phone number is 863-651-2679, and then there's our customer support. So if we have any questions, we'd like to entertain them and answer anything that you have.
Okay, Jai, we did have a question kind of come through and want to wait till now. So it's regarding getting to the second story. So the question is if you're bringing a ladder along or are you kind of climbing out a window or what kind of tips do you have to get lights up on the second story or kind of showing the downlights?
Yeah, so a lot of times I will have a small, like a little giant ladder. A lot of times, believe it or not, the homeowner actually has a ladder on the property. A lot of times, a contractor's having me come out and help them with their first demo. So I ask for pictures ahead of time of the property so that I know what I'm getting into. If it happened to be a second story where it was a flat roof up there, I got no problem if the homeowner allows us to step through a window and put them up there. So yes, all of the above on that, but preparing to do that.
Perfect. Something else too that I've done in the past that works well is especially if you're trying to do downlights in trees, is get your hands on a aluminum pole, the kind that they use to clean pools with, that has that adjustability. You can either, I've done it as, even with duct tape, or use the clamps that Jai had shown. You can then put that pole and then adjust it to go up to that second story or up into that tree, and then bungee cord or somehow secure it so that way you have it. Helps keep you having to get on ladders and or try and climb a homeowner's tree. So that's a good tip as well. I've also used nursery stake poles. Those are pretty inexpensive, easy to get a hold of. They're every one of your distributors. So that helps get things up kind of on that second level. If you don't want to climb a ladder, don't want to get on the deal. Donald McQueen asked if the pictures with and without the second story lights are available for the portfolios. Unfortunately, Donald, they're not. I wish we could share those, but we have to get permission from the homeowners to take those pictures and kind of show them and share them. My best suggestion is I'm not sure where you're located, but let's reach out to one of your local reps and see if they can kind of help you, even if it's at your house or one of your relatives' house. We can set the demo up and kind of walk you through how it goes to teach you. I mean, every single one of our representatives has the heart of a teacher, and so we want to show you how this stuff works, and maybe we can take pictures of your house or neighbor's house or even on your next job, and then as Jai mentioned, you start building your portfolio that way. We will have this video up on our YouTube channel, so you can maybe bring your uh, um, video in for that and kind of show them how that works at this section. But unfortunately, we can't really disseminate those photos. The next question is, what are some good tips for asking for the sale? Jai, I'll let you take that one.
Well, one of the ways I did it as a contractor myself is after I set up a demo and I gave them a budget or proposal, I had no problem saying, "Hey, look, we're booked 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out, and we really would like to get you on the schedule." So you're asking for the sale. You're letting them know there is a little bit of a time frame that you know you're trying to fill. Um, if for any reason they stall a little bit, again, following back up with that email and the photos and saying, you know, just want to see where you're at. Is there any answers that I can, provide you with? Any questions that you need answered? It gives us also the opportunity to bring up, if it was just a budget, at Unique Lighting, we do have 0% financing for 24 months. So it gives you a chance to even bring up financing if that might be the thing that pushes it over.
Yeah, I the only thing I would add to that, as far as asking for the sale, I always like to follow up how excited we are to do this job for you. We're this is something that's going to be good for both of us. We're just excited to do the job, so we'd really like to get started with you. But just to back up Jai, I think um, the biggest tip is to say, hey, look, I'm 2 weeks out or even 1 week out or four, whatever it is. And so I'd like to get you on the schedule, as soon as possible. Cause, I'm doing 3 more demos, later this week, and my schedule is just going to keep getting pushed out. And that's kind of gives them a little bit of a call to action, a little bit of, kind of certainty to it, and then, I need to get this done. So that works. Um, do you have a good, better, best with the different tiers of lights? Would you ever mix different lighting tiers?
For me, at times, yes. So again, if I have a portfolio already, and the one house we showed was an easier design. It was probably 13 lights on it. If you're working in a development that might have that as one of their base models, maybe they only have 10 houses to choose from in that neighborhood. well, you would know that you would encounter that house multiple times. So you could have that as I like to call it the Olympic podium. You could have a gold, a silver, and a bronze package based on budgets. There's nothing wrong with that. And at times, if it's a little bit bigger design, if I have an area that's not going to be walked around as closely, I can then go down a little bit of a line because I don't need all the glare control, and that might help on budget. So there's definitely ways of blending different families of lights. The good thing about Unique is all of our brass fixtures are pretty much matching on their finish. It's a weathered brass finish, so it makes mingling the lines a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that. One thing that I keep in mind, and I kind of just say this and tongue in cheek, for as long as I've been doing lighting and doing this business, never once have I had a homeowner or a client say to me, you know what, Brian, I was hoping to pay a little bit more. Can you charge me more money? So I never start off at the bottom, and I kind of, again, you get a feel when you're going through and is of where it's at. But the biggest mistake, and Jai touched on this, the biggest mistake that I see is when someone says, well, it's a little bit more than I expected to spend. And the first thing contractors do is skip the middle and go right to the bottom, potentially leaving money on the table and and other things as well. And so kind of like Jai said, take a look at that property. I'm a big fan of mixing the different tiers of lights. The high traffic areas, the high profile areas. Let's keep those, the high end as much as we can. If we're doing a perimeter, fence or perimeter wall or something that's on the half acre backside, to Jai's point, I don't need all the glare control. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I can use a smaller tier. So thank you for the question, Rebecca. I hope we answered that for you.
One of the
Uh,
other things we can do in that situation is be very observant when we're on the property. So if you just happen to, be able to look in the window, or if you were invited in, if you see that they really have spent for the upgrades, then that tells you their personality a little bit. So I kind of give you a funny, quick story. I did a demo for a contractor that I know, and when I came out with the design, again, it was a little over 100 lights, and contractors already, trying to figure out what that dollar amount is, and he was very unconfident with the homeowner spending that kind of money. Well, I looked through the window and I noticed one of the most beautiful chandeliers that were going to go over a dining room table that I had ever seen. So when the homeowners came and arrived ready to do this demo, I just, commented that, hey, I really, love your lighting fixtures. And without hesitation, they told me that that chandelier was $40,000. So that already told me a little bit about their personality. That was one light that was going to light just a table that only was really going to be utilized when people were there for holidays or maybe special occasions. But we were fixing to give them an entire lighting system for underneath that price of that one chandelier. So being very observant of the surroundings and maybe the quality that your homeowners are looking to have on their property.
yep. The other thing too, and I'm not, one thing that I also, in regards to doing the demos, if when I was out in the field and you saw my demo kit, it was pretty beat up. I mean, it got a lot of use, and I wore it out. But again, I'm in the process of I'm trying to sell the effect. I'm trying to sell the scene, not so much the fixture. I'm using the fixtures to get me to that level. Once I get that scene set that, oh yes, this is what I want my house to look like, then we have that secondary or even tertiary conversation of, what fixtures are we going to use? Now, it's easy for me to say, but I work for a living as well, and I've got budget, so we still got to fit within the budget. But the first hook on the demos is let's sell them the effect, and then we'll figure out the fixtures. As Jai mentioned in the beginning of this, so many people want to jump to the fixtures and pick out, oh, I want to do that. I want this one. I want that one. They're going through a catalog. And then the scene becomes secondary. And that's where you really get hamstringed on what you kind of do. Unique lighting systems, we've got, so many different fixtures, so many different fixture lines. We can almost fit any budget out there. Again, someone's looking at a Home Depot project, Home Depot fixture, no. But we've got enough fixture lines out there that we can fit almost any budget to fit anybody's needs. So again, if you kind of take that strategy, it'll really help out running through the demo and then running through the whole process. So, are there any more questions? We're going to kind of hang on here for a few minutes and see if anyone's got any more questions. Again, as I mentioned, as soon as we get done here, I'm going to load this up to our YouTube channel so you guys can kind of watch it again or look through the pictures and things like that. And then again, reach out to Jai if you're looking for a rep in your area to help you out with demos. Jai's in the Florida area, so he'd be a good resource for you guys out there in the Southeast, and then get you in contact with anyone we need to. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions. Jai, do you have any more parting words before we end this presentation today?
No, I just encourage all to think about doing demos for your next lighting project.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Stay safe out there and have a wonderful rest of the week.